Hey everybody, John Ederilla for the Young Turks. So the CBO scoring of the Obamacare repeal bill, the ACA repeal bill, the AHCA, has finally come out. And look, we've been telling you for a couple of weeks now that it's going to be a disaster. We knew that it was going to be. And Republicans have known, and that's why they're so scared about these numbers coming out. But it turns out that it's even worse than we thought it was going to be. This repeal is going to be an absolute disaster. The cost in human lives, difficult to exaggerate. I won't need to. I'm just going to read you the numbers. Cenk is going to be breaking down some of this information on the show not much later on in the day, but this is crazy, the numbers here. So look at this. By 2026, just 10 years from now, 24 million people who would have otherwise been covered under the current law will not be covered. 24 million people in just a decade. That is far higher than what we thought the CBO was going to say. The Brookings Institute said it would be between 6 and 15 million. I mean, we're talking about almost double what it could have been under a lot of analyses. And think about what that actually represents. If 24 million people don't have insurance, that's 24 additional million families who are on the brink of possible bankruptcy if an unexpected health expense comes up. That's people who are not doing routine checking for some conditions that will become chronic later on. We're talking about conditions that will develop far worse because people don't have the insurance to deal with them at the early stages. And of course, the deaths. And that number, which we've been talking about, the analyses that say 30 to 40,000 people will die prematurely every single year in America as a result of the repeal, that number might well go up based on this new information from the CBO. So to put it in perspective, okay, let's compare the two bills. The loss in coverage projected for just next year under this new bill equals about 70% of the 20 million people or so who have gained insurance because of Obamacare. That's 20 million people that didn't have insurance who have it now. 70% of those gains will be wiped out in just 1 year. The total loss in coverage over the following decade will not only destroy all of those gains, but will go far beyond that. So we're talking about fewer people having insurance in 10 years than would have even had it if we never had Obamacare, let alone if we kept the bill as it is right now. Now, there's also the cost, and there's a bit up, a bit down to that. The CBO estimates that premiums for individual health plans just in next year and then in the following year, 2019, would be on average about 15 to 20% higher under this new bill than it would have been under Obamacare. So have fun with that, Republicans. In the next year or two, you are going to cost people thousands of additional dollars for their plans, and that's going to be on you. You're going to be responsible for that. So have fun with that, Republicans. By 2026, so we're talking again 10 years in the future, the premiums would on average, be about 10% lower than they would have been if Obamacare remained intact. And so let's talk about that, because that might sound like a good thing, okay? You get rid of Obamacare, you replace it with a new bill, and in 10 years, the premiums are 10% lower, although they get higher in the interim. Think about what they need to do to accomplish that. More than 20 million people get thrown off of insurance, so a decade from now, some people will spend a little bit less. Some people, even under that, are going to spend more. They're willing to let hundreds of thousands of people die, okay, to do two things. One, get that sort of number, which is going to sound good, and they're going to tout it, and then hand $600 billion to the richest people in America because of all the tax cuts that they're taking out in this new bill that are currently there for the ACA. That's what this is all about. We're going to break down all these other numbers, but don't forget that most important number, $600 billion. That's what this is about. They don't care about the rest of it. The rest of it is ideological, like bones that they're throwing to the right wing. Maybe there's a wonk who cares about some of this. They care about handing huge piles of money to the richest Americans in the country. But let's return to this. So supposedly, this is going to lower the deficit if you go far enough, okay? If you go $337 billion over the next decade, which, I mean, he wants to throw $54 billion additional dollars into the military when it's already an grossly overinflated military budget. He wants to throw $54 billion in 1 year. So let's say he never raises that. And for the next 10 years, we just have that extra $54 billion. That's more right there, just the extra money they threw on top of it. The sums of money that they are getting, that they're getting back in tax cuts, that they're throwing to the military-industrial complex, are staggering. They're hard to track, but we're going to. And now this is going to be a big problem for the Republicans. They know that, and so over the past couple of weeks, they've been trying to poison people against the CBO. Now, that is a difficult thing to do because Republicans and Democrats have used the CBO, which is a nonpartisan organization in design, for decades now to score bills and to provide some objective information about what is being done. And the director of the CBO, by the way, is appointed by a Republican and specifically chosen because he likes to use something that Republicans love called dynamic scoring. The idea behind dynamic scoring is you pretend that the economic activity we say this bill is going to generate reduces the cost of it. Whether it actually ever happens, who the hell knows? It's useful propaganda right now. But fine, they've got that guy, and they don't even trust him now. They're bad-mouthing him. Sean Spicer, earlier today, saying that you cannot trust the results of the CBO. Brief diversion, this is just another chance for them to destroy your faith that there is information that we can search for and then base our life on, base our decisions on. The CBO now is added to the media, the scientists, professors. You can't trust any of them. You believe the number that Donald Trump says is in there. You believe what Sean Spicer says. That's the only valid source of information, according to these people. But again, 24 million people. 24 million people. Think about the ripples throughout our society of 30, 40, 50,000 people dying needlessly every single year, on top of all the other problems we have as a country. And then to have a couple dozen million people losing their insurance. And man, in the last election, everybody believed his lies. They really believe that Obamacare has problems. He's the guy who's going to fix them. He's going to protect us. He's going to put America first. No, he ain't putting America first. He's putting the top 1% of Americans first, okay? And he's willing to watch you suffer and die so he can give a little bit more money to the richest people the world has known in its entire history. Sorry, we're going to break it down more on the main show. I just wanted to give you this brief overview of some of the numbers because we're going to see the Republican response to it later on today. They are going to have to scramble to do damage control on this. They already were going to have a somewhat difficult path to getting this passed, considering its near universal condemnation from both liberals and conservatives. These numbers do not help because, again, if you're coming in at the end, the numbers are even worse than we thought they were going to be. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this little live broadcast covering the CBO's breaking news. I'm John Adarola. You can follow me on Twitter @John Adarola, Instagram @John Adarola, and I'll see you in the next one.